Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of You and Me and Multiple Sclerosis. My name is Pam, and I've been living with multiple sclerosis for nearly 37 years. I'm not a doctor or a medical professional of any kind, but what I am experienced in is life with multiple sclerosis. And not only do I know my own self and how I function, but I've also talked with other folks that have MS. I've talked with neurologists from coast to coast. I've read a lot on the internet. I am certainly no expert, but I do have things to share. And today I will talk about something that you have probably run into if you've been visiting neurologists. They have you do a test normally that just involves walking down the hallway, up and back a few times, as fast as you can, they said. And what they'll use that for, along with other tests that they do, is to calculate your expanded disability status. And they give you a score from 0 to 10, 0 being no disability at all, no symptoms of any kind, and 10 being you're dead. So there's a lot of ground in between there. And it's a little bit of a mystery, so I thought I would look at a website that will help us, bearing in mind that the information that we find here on this website can also be found in many other websites that cover the same information. But I want to make sure that I give you a resource to look at, so I will put the URL down below in the description. So we're talking about, as I said, the Expanded Disability Status Scale, or the EDSS is how you'll see it more often than not. And according to this, it's a way of measuring how much someone is affected by their MS. So it's specific to MS. We don't use this scale for any other disease or infirmity, disability, whatever. It's all just specifically for MS. Your EDSS score is important, as they say here. And for the doctor's sake, they want to know who can take part in clinical trials. Depending on your score, you might not be able to. But they're also used to decide who can have disease-modifying therapy. I just want to talk a little bit here about how they measure this thing. The things that they're looking for to calculate the score involve things like muscle weakness, your ability to move your arms and legs, your balance, coordination, and tremor, eye movements that you can't control, which is called nystagmus, your speech and swallowing ability. Do you have trouble synchronizing your swallowing? Do you choke quite a bit? Do you have trouble with your speech? Are you slurring your speech? Is it hesitant? Okay, another one would be unusual sensations or numbness in your fingertips, in your legs. Bowel and bladder functions, which are very common in multiple sclerosis. Your eyesight, we've already talked about nystagmus, but there are other problems you can have with your eyes. You can have double vision, you can have blurred vision, you can have blindness, you can have partial blindness. There's many things that can go wrong with your eyes. Obviously, eyesight problem doesn't necessarily mean MS on its own. But with a cluster of other symptoms that you're having, it's very likely that MS is at the root of this. Your thinking and memory, is your cognition slowed? Are you having brain fog? Do you have trouble remembering things? Let's face it, everybody forgets things now and again. But are you finding that you're having chronic trouble? And then other functions, I love that. You always have to leave that open at the end. Other functions. And I think this is the important thing. As we start going down the scale, as I said, 0 means everything's fine, but 1 is no disability, but there's just like a little bit of a sign that maybe something isn't right. As we go down through here, you see that it's a little bit additive. Every half step, there's a little bit more and a little bit more. Like 2.0, very small disability in one function. Now already we're getting into these quantifier words that I am not sure, honestly, what they mean. Maybe any given neurologist or nurse would know, what they think they mean, but is there a standard that goes all the way across the entire field worldwide that small means small to everyone, whether you're in Edinburgh or Iowa? I don't know about that. And the same thing is going to continue to be the case as we go up this scale. We're going to see mild disability. Mild, okay. What does mild mean? But they are counting the number of functions. We saw those areas up above. So we got from one function, now we've got the problem in more than one function. I have to say that in the past, doctors were reluctant to diagnose something as MS if you didn't have some kind of disability or some kind of symptom, at least, in more than one of those functions that we talked about a little bit ago. Nowadays, things are quite different. The doctors are more likely to jump on it quite early so that they can start you on some kind of disease-modifying therapy. Okay, but as we go on, we see 3.0 is moderate disability. Okay, what's moderate disability? I don't know what moderate means. And then we have mild disability. Not sure what that means either, but we can count 3 or 4 different functions of the list that I showed you earlier. So there's got to be 3 or 4 different areas that are being affected. However, you notice here that it says no problems walking. So whatever the functions are that are affected, you're still able to walk without a problem. So what that means is not only are you're able to walk at a normal pace, but also you do not require any aid, either a cane or crutches or a walker or a rollator or anything. You can walk unaided. Then 3.5, we get to moderate disability again. With moderate disability and several other functions, still no problem walking. 4.0, however, they start to insinuate, at least, that you might be having some problems with walking, because it says you can walk without an aid for 500 meters, which, I suppose if you're not disabled at all, that's not very much, but as you can see, that number changes as we go down the list. Significant disability, by the way, significant being another one of those quantifiers. Who knows what that actually means related to like moderate or I don't know. So we pass over from moderate into significant here. And then at 4.5, you can walk without an aid for only 300 meters. That's okay. And then 5.0 is interesting. This is really, I think, where it kicks over. Disability gets in the way of daily activities, but you can walk without an aid for 200 meters. Now, most days, I think I would possibly put myself somewhere between 4.5 and 5.0. I can't argue the fact that I have significant disability, but I can do most activities that I want to do, and if I have a difficulty with it, I can usually find a workaround. But this idea of walking for a long period of time without any kind of an aid, that would be hard for me, for sure. I'm pretty sure I could do 200 meters, but actually, I haven't tested it. I probably should get out there and try it. But as you can see, it just gets more and more serious with the amount of areas that are affected and the distance that you can walk without an aid. When you get down to 7.0, that's really a big change. You must use a wheelchair but are active all day. You can't walk more than 5 meters even with an aid. So that seems like a big change from 6.5, where you could walk 20 meters with the aids without stopping for rests. And then at 7, you can't even do that. And as you can see, it just gets more severe from there. The other part that I wanted you to look at really quickly here was the limitations of this EDSS. And I've already been sort of being snarky and insinuated some. But one of the other things that neurologists are understanding is that the EDSS scale, as time tested as it has been for neurologists for many, many decades, it focuses a lot on how MS affects your walking It does look at other problems, but a lot of the descriptors have to do with how far you can walk without an aid and what kinds of aids you might need to do walking and that sort of thing. So there is sort of a disproportionate emphasis on walking. And as the second paragraph here says, the EDSS does not include some symptoms that you can't see, and these include pain, fatigue, and depression, and it doesn't pay much attention to how MS affects how well you can use your arms, hands, and fingers. It doesn't reflect well on how the effects of MS can change from day to day, week to week, or over a longer time. Any test is a snapshot, right? You are very different even like from moment to moment in the day, let alone from day to day or week to week or in a longer stretch. So while the EDSS suffers from that limitation, let's face it, so does any other test. An MRI, a blood test, anything that you do, and not just for MS, right? I mean, we all know that our blood pressure varies a lot during the day, so it all depends on when the doctor puts that cuff on your arm, whether you have high blood pressure, low blood pressure, or normal blood pressure. So yeah, it's all a snapshot in time. I think the key here is to take the same tests over a course of time so the doctor can get a feel for just generally how you are over the course of time. Are you staying the same or are you slowly getting worse? And I guess in those rare cases, are you getting better? Because it does happen that it seems that over time people improve, at least in certain functions. I know that there have been a couple things in my symptom catalog that have not caused me as much problem in recent years as they did at one time. So that's what the EDSS is measuring and what its limitations are. So I hope I've demystified that a little bit for you so that you understand a little more about what all that's about and what the doctor making you walk down the hall, what they're really looking for. And you can ask more in-depth questions perhaps about how does the doctor define those words like small or moderate or very significant. I mean, I'd like to know, so I'm going to make sure that I ask that question next time. Well, that's all I had for you today. Thanks for watching, and I will see you again in my next video.